VAR.
Hello. VAR, yes, that is the topic of today's video. We will be discussing the controversial new addition to the Premier League, the video assistant referee, with Ryan and Sikander again. We've changed location though, we're in the car this time. Yeah, so let's get this.
Disclaimer, we're not driving.
Yeah,
we are stationary.
Yes, definitely, we're not breaking any laws. So let's get this discussion up and running. VAR then, are you a fan or not?
I'm divided. I think the concept of it is good because there are, coming from a West Ham fan who would have got an extra 11 points last season if VAR would have been in play. Obviously, I think for situations like that, and for many other teams, not just us, of course, but for many other teams, I think for situations like that where there was clearly a penalty deserved and the ref or the assistant or the linesman didn't see it, and for situations like that, yes, it's a good idea. However, my problem with it is it ruins the volume, pace, and atmosphere of a game. It throws the fluidity of it off.
Yeah.
Because someone will score a goal, someone will contest said goal, and then you're sitting around for anywhere between a minute and 3 minutes just watching a screen on a screen. And I imagine that if you're live and you've paid all that money out for a ticket, you didn't want to go and watch a stationary image on the TV.
No, I think that's one of the big factors, isn't it? It's the entertainment factor. The stop-start, you sort of can ruin the atmosphere. And obviously football is all about entertainment, and I guess you could say it adds more drama, but I feel like it's a valid point because people come here to watch a game. They want to see what's going on. They don't like the stop-starts a lot of the times. Yeah.
It's the same reason why a lot of people find American football so hard to follow, because we're a game that, if you just take the minutes into account, I believe is 120 minutes, but a game will last about 4 hours because of all the stop-starting and all the rule changes and everything like that. And a lot of people, they plan their day out and they're like, oh, a 90-minute game of football, bit of extra time, half-time, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is going to be the amount of time. But, for example, I can't remember what game it is. I think it was yesterday, Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace. Stoppage time in the second half was 7 minutes.
7 minutes, yeah.
7 minutes, and there was a goal. There weren't a lot of substitutes. I think Sheffield United made 2. I didn't see Crystal Palace make one.
And,
they
made a couple.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
But still, what is it? 30 minutes a sub. So the thing is these extra 5 minutes are literally just coming because of this VAR system.
Yeah.
Which I personally think the negatives outweigh the positives.
But is it so you wouldn't say it's worth it because this is the elite football, so games, the league standings can literally be decided, especially at the end, at the bottom 100%. And at the top, can be decided by points. You could be a player or a fan supporting your team, they could get relegated, and it's because of the lack of VAR, and you could now be playing in the Championship, and from there things can get worse because if you go to the Championship, you all know, you can't pay the players' wages, players are going to leave. That could be a big problem.
I'm definitely not disputing that point 100%. There are when I say the negatives outweigh the positives, that doesn't mean I don't think that it is needed. Because something was needed, just like before goal line technology was around. That was needed. I can't remember a situation in the Premier League where I think it was definitely needed, but I can remember England versus Germany at the 2010 World Cup when Lampard scored that goal against Germany that was over the line by about a metre. And it bounced back out and it wasn't given.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So again, these things are beneficial to the game. Obviously, with goal line technology, there aren't any disadvantages apart from the fact that it takes away the mystique of has it been scored or has it not? But to be fair, that doesn't really bother to me. I'd rather have a definitive answer to as and when. Whereas with VAR, for the actual game and for the rulings and for just like the bread and butter of it, yes, it's fantastic. But for the spectacle, the atmosphere, and the entertainment of it, I think it's not good for it.
I think
go on, Josh.
I think it's going to be like, it can be too particular, really. Like, we saw at the weekend with the City Tottenham game. I think it was a bit too particular to be called not a goal. I think that should have been allowed because it was barely anything. I mean, I do agree with the facts that that decisions need to be clear, and that a relegation could ride on a decision, and stuff like that. So for that reason, it's important. But really, really particular things, like for instance that goal that City scored, like I just don't think VAR should intervene that much with it, because then that takes away the experience. And as well as that, I don't think, like, for instance, say a team got relegated on a bad decision, which ultimately cost them the game. It's not all down to that decision. The team could have played better and stuff like that. So they got to look at themselves. And I don't think the whole future of a team can be decided on one decision, because teams pick themselves up. You can't. That's just like making up excuses, really.
Yeah, yes and no, because if you think about it, usually down the bottom end, the last, the deciding teams of who's going down, it's sometimes played the last game of the season, one or 2 points, lots of times. So, it really can be impactful.
100%, because obviously last season came down to Brighton and Cardiff were head to head on like the last day. There was only 3 points to separate them.
Yeah.
But the thing is something else that it can contribute. It could be goal difference that means the difference of being in European football or not. Say, for example, a penalty doesn't get awarded, like with this VAR system. If there was a penalty that should have been and you didn't have VAR, and that 1 point, I know it's unlikely, but that 1 point, and it could have been multiple that could have been given by VAR, them goals could have pushed you into Europe. You're going to look back, see that it was a penalty, and you're going to be absolutely devastated because you knew it was the wrong decision. Because sometimes football's a game. Sometimes the game isn't fair, and I think VAR will add the sense of fairness in.
In terms of penalties, I think let's look at the Abraham one against Liverpool. I mean, that wasn't a penalty. I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm not going to be biased. That was definitely a dive, I think, in my opinion. But like VAR looked at it, and the penalty was still given. There could be contact. There could be like the slightest bit of contact, but then that doesn't really justify a player going down, does it?
Exactly.
Sometimes,
exactly the same as Aguero's against West Ham.
Yeah.
But that was a very soft penalty to give.
Yeah.
See, I think that's not so much of a topic of VAR. It's more so who's watching, who's actually making the decision watching those video clips, because some of them might feel like, well, they're the ones that are saying, no, it's not a penalty, or hey, I think you should look at this or something. And so I guess it's down to interpretation of who is making those decisions.
Yeah. I think that's a massive plus. It's not like the fact that it's a fully qualified referee sitting up there and not just like someone who, like for example, a security guard that sits there and watches camera. It's someone that he's qualified to make them decisions. However, sometimes I've seen stuff go the wrong way before, where the referee's been standing directly in front of them and they've made the wrong call. These things do happen. Like for example, there was the one where Raheem Sterling was offside against us. I actually think because Raheem Sterling, 2 of his goals against us were both contested by VAR, and I actually think that the VAR system got the goals the wrong way round.
Yeah.
Because I think the first goal that he scored should have been allowed, and I think the second one that was allowed shouldn't have been. So sometimes these mistakes are made, but I suppose it just comes down to the context and like what the situation actually is. Because if it's like a millimetre, you would need to use VAR for some
offside.
Yeah.
I think with offsides, I mean, that's something I was going to lead on to. I think again, that's all right. I'm going to compare another Chelsea game, like the Super Cup again. There was a moment where Mason Mount scored a goal, but he was judged to be offside. Looking at the replays, slightly offside. I know people say like even like 2 millimeters is still offside, which is true, you know. But do you not think the rules should be changed a bit so that, you know, they give the striker the advantage a little bit? Like they give them the benefit of the doubt, you know, if they're just like that marginal gap offside.
So like you mean like a 5 millimeter sort of give?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Because
I think that would be fair because the thing is sometimes, say for example, you've got a Ryan Fraser coming up against like a big boy, like an Andy Carroll sort of character. Andy Carroll's legs are a lot longer, exactly, which means if he's going on the attack and Ryan Fraser has run back to try and collect the ball, he's going to... Andy Carroll is immediately at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because if he's taking a stride forward and so is Fraser at the same time, he's going to be adjudged to be offside simply for the fact that he's taller. And that's where VAR gets a bit dodgy for me.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think there should be some sort of discretion, and there should be some sort of... I don't think it should be ridiculous. I don't think it should be like a few centimetres or stuff, but I think it should be a few mil.
So are you saying that height is essentially a factor into it, and so therefore we should be judging players, where, you know, if they're offside or not by the VAR? Oh, but he's 6'5", so it's okay.
No. I wasn't like saying that you'd have to take down every player's individual height and take it into consideration. I was just using it as an example where a margin of error would be beneficial for VAR as a whole.
Yeah,
because there might be certain things where like you're being an because some people run leaning forward, some people run straight. So the thing, there's loads of different factors, and you can't take all biological factors into control because the game would be about a fortnight long.
See, I'm not sure about that. I think if you're offside, you're offside. You know, I think it doesn't matter. I feel like you're getting too much into it there, and
that is true. But like for ages, people have been saying it goes back quite a few years. You know, give the strikers the benefit of the doubt.
But why did they deserve the benefit of the doubt?
I think it's you know, something pundits have been saying for quite a while. I think, and in my opinion, I think it's quite fair because, like Ryan said, you know, sometimes you could be running, or you could you know, through no fault of your own,
it could be like a biological
your
factor.
body could sort of like be leaning slightly over, like very marginally.
But generally, when you're running forward, your body is going to be leaning. You know, that's how you essentially run. You're running forward, so your body's leaning forward.
But you've got certain players.
You have to look at defenders. You know, defenders most of the time are trying to keep a back line straight. You know, they play on the offside line. They're a lot of the times they're playing with their back towards goal. Okay, and so they may not be in that position where they're running backwards and leaning, but that's because they're already. If the striker times that run, when most of the defenders have their back towards goal, trying to keep a line, if they time their run to perfection, they're going to get the ball. They're going to be in a one-on-one position. The keeper, defence haven't done their job because they didn't manage to keep the line. Okay, I feel like it's until you've played as a defender, you'll realise how you know unfair that is. You know, you keep a solid line, because you have to understand. You know, usually there's 4 players, sometimes even 5 players trying to keep a back line, you know, an offside line. And that's, you know, every single game, that's likely to be exposed at least once or twice. If that's not exposed, that means that defence had a really, really good game. So to then say, attackers should get a slight leeway now, you know, already, I feel like that's just, you know, it's unfair on the defenders.
No, that's agreeable.
Yeah,
when it gets explained in depth, I can understand. I just think a minor. When I say an error, like 5 millimeters is tiny, and I'm just talking about an error of judgment, not only to make it easier for the referees, but also. Like, because then no one can complain, like, oh, well, it's bang on, it's not fair, like, it's too hard to play this game, it's ruining the game. You can, like, retort to that to be like, well, there is a margin of error. If you step over that margin of error, that is your fault. The thing that I think that VAR is the most beneficial for, aside from offsides, is diving. Not fouls in general, because I think some fouls, even if caught on VAR, I still think it's a bit iffy. However, diving, I think that's one of the best things that VAR is for, because there will be certain angles, especially if you're, say for example, if there's a free kick coming in, the box is going to be congested and everything like that, and the ref, like however good he is, won't have X-ray vision. So someone might go down and say, oh, well, he's pulled my shirt back and stuff like that. Last season, sometimes the ref would have been like, oh, right, okay, point at the spot, and sometimes he wouldn't. So VAR can be used in a really positive manner to deal with them sort of situations.
But do you think the Abraham was a penalty then, in your opinion? Because I don't think it was. I think that was a dive, and they got that wrong.
It was questionable, but I think, yeah, it was... If it was a penalty, it was a bit too light for my liking.
I think
it wasn't.
Was he able? Do you think he was able to get the ball before it would go out of play?
Did you see it?
I saw it, but I'm asking you guys. Yeah. Did you guys think when he knocked the ball past the keeper, was he able to get to the ball in time before it went out of pitch? Let's say the challenge never happened. Would he have got there?
Go on.
It's hard to say because Tammy Abraham's speed seems to fluctuate. Sometimes he's rapid and sometimes he's like Glenn Murray. However, I do think there is, albeit a slim one, I do think there was a minor possibility of him getting to that ball.
Yeah.
And that creates the amount of doubt that he would have been able to collect it and provide a goal scoring opportunity.
That's true, yeah. I think he could have got to it, but Adrian coming out sort of made his mind up for him, didn't it? I think he definitely played on it. He was like, the keeper's
100%.
come out, I'm going to go down. But I think, yeah, he could have got the ball, I think, just about, yeah.
100%, because the thing is I like if he would have claimed that, if he would have won that penalty, it wouldn't have been him that's taken it. So it's not like he's going to get the glory from scoring the penalty. It probably would have been taken. I mean, who was playing on the wing? Was it Willian and Pedro?
No, it was Pulisic and Pedro.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know who would have taken that penalty. Maybe Azpilicueta or someone like that.
Jorginho took it.
Oh, Jorginho.
Yeah.
So so he's not going to get the glory of scoring that.
No.
So surely, if he wasn't playing on it, he would have continued running to get the ball so he could have had some involvement in that goal.
No, I disagree. I feel like it's a team effort. If, you're told as a player, if a challenge comes in, and you're in the box and someone comes into a challenge, they hit you, go down.
Not necessarily though, because you see some players that like people will absolutely steam into him in the box and they'll do their best to get that ball.
Yeah.
Because all you've got to consider is money talks, and at the end of the day, goal bonuses are a thing. So the thing is, if you score that, plus the more goals you score, the higher your reputation is going to get, the more viable you are going to be on the transfer market if you want to get a big move.
See, I feel I can understand that, but I think at the time, well, it depends on the player really, but I feel like most players would prefer to make a decision based on what's best for the team at the time. If they feel going down, calling for a penalty is a better chance at scoring a goal than staying on your feet, riding the challenge and getting the ball, then I feel most players would be like, right, I'm going to go down.
Take the easy decision.
Yeah. Because it's a team sport, and that's, I might not agree with diving, but and stuff like that, but
might need a bit of light.
I kind of agree with both of you, really. Yeah, no, I think
I've become a silhouette.
Yeah, I kind of agree with both of you, really. I mean, there are still quite a lot of cases. I mean, even today, you still see it where players will burst into the box, the keeper will come out, but they will honourably stay on their feet and try and do the best they can. There again, other players will think just about the fact that they could get a penalty and they could con the ref in a way. So it depends on what kind of player it is doing it. There's different kinds of players.
I think it depends on the player's mentality. Some players play for the passion of the game, for their love of the game. However, some players will be playing just for a wage packet, and some players will be playing simply to win. Like, it's different, and some of them will be doing it for all free. So that sort of situation, I think, completely depends on the mentality of the player that is involved in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to VAR. Do you think we use it too much?
Short answer for me, yes. I think, we've seen a glimpse of it. We saw a glimpse of it at the weekend where the Man City-Tottenham game, that goal was a bit too much. I don't think it should have been disallowed. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that this season. We're only in the second weekend, so Yeah, short answer for me. I think we're probably going to use it too much this season. It's going to take the passion of the game away, really. Well, not the passion, but
the flow.
Yeah. Is that not so? That decision that happened, City and Tottenham, that handball, is that not more of a problem with handball as opposed to VAR? Because the rule's been set for handball, and so let's say there's a rule: if it hits the arm and then essentially if the ball ends up going in very soon afterwards, then that can't count. That's essentially what's happened there, and that's essentially what is the rule. Like that's handball, it can't count. So someone with that information, they may not personally agree with it, but someone looking at that video evidence going, well, to the letter of the law, this shouldn't count. Is that really VAR's fault, or is that not a fault of handball?
I think it's a fault of the handball. I mean, I personally don't really agree with it. I think that if you've got your arms sort of like blatantly out, it goes back to the Champions League final. I mean, what do you think about that one with Sissoko? He's just like, he did have his arm out.
The Salah penalty.
Yeah, he did have his arm out though, didn't he? And
that was an unnatural position.
It was, yeah. So that was probably a penalty.
If you watch the replay in slow motion, he actually moves his hand towards the ball.
I don't personally agree with the handball rule.
I mean,
really.
I don't want to go too much into the handball, but I just want to quickly say, like, the ball came up to his sort of chest area here. Now, as a player, I think a natural reaction when you see the ball coming towards you is to sort of tense up. When your arms are in the air, naturally you want to sort of close your body, because you want to tighten up. And what happens is your arms come in. So it looks like his arms move to the ball. But realistically, I feel like that's because reactionary. He wants to tighten his body up because he's bracing for impact.
Yeah.
So, can you really fault him for his arm movement coming down into it?
I think you can, personally, because it's not like it's not like it's a new rule.
But is it a deliberate handball? Is that reaction because he's reacting to try and is that reaction a deliberate handball?
I think it depends on the perception of the person that's viewing the situation. I mean, as you can see, there's a difference between me. I think it was a deliberate handball, whereas you don't think it is.
I think it's. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I just feel like it's not black and white.
Oh no! I agree. There is some questioning in it, but from my own personal opinion, I do believe that. I don't think I think it was deliberate, but he tried not to make it obvious.
Yeah, I think it was a penalty. It was an unnatural position, and Sissoko was like quite. I'd say he was quite idiotic to do that. Really, like if you're going to shout to your player, shout to him. But to do that in the box, people, the opposing player is definitely going to, he's going to see that. Mane was very clever, and like he did the right thing, for his team in that situation. In my opinion, he just sort of played it and hit his arm. He hit the ball towards his hand, but then again, his hand, as you say, was in an unnatural position. So I think it was a penalty. But yeah, like the handball rule now is just, I don't know if I completely agree with it.
We'll have a talk about that in another video.
Yeah. Okay then, cheers guys for listening to this debate on VAR. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you soon.